Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
The song that you are currently listening to is called Heavyweight. This performance is labeled as the full band version, and it is one of the first 3 singles that have been released under the name Red and the Paper Flowers. That new band is coming to the Peak to Peak area for the first time ever. They're heading to the Gold Hill General Store very soon. More details coming up later in the podcast. In the meantime, if you want to learn more about Red and the Paper Flowers, then be sure to head to their website at redandthepaperflowers.com, follow their Instagram at red.music, and check them out on Facebook and YouTube as Red and the Paper Flowers. And finally, be sure to check out this single, Heavyweight, Regrets of Mine, and Iams wherever you get your music.
Sold, but to the outside of her to behold, fare you well.
Hello there, everybody. My name is Jamie Lammers, and welcome to this week's Music of the Mountains, Where to Be and What to See, brought to you by the Mountaineer Podcast. Looks like I'm actually going to be able to get this episode out at a reasonable time of the day. Thank goodness for that. Anyway, as I mentioned in the last episode, I have been very much looking forward to this particular interview. I interviewed our next guests all the way back on July 24th, 2024, and I am very excited to finally bring you this interview and their story, as they are not quite a local band, but they are coming to a local area. So, without any further ado, our guest this week. Do you mind introducing yourselves real quick?
Yeah, my name's Red Darty. I sing and play guitar in Red and the Paper Flowers.
My name's Gavin Gregg. I play mandolin and sing in Red and the Paper Flowers.
My name's Katie Adams. I play bass and I sing with Red and the Paper Flowers.
It's an honor to interview all 3 of you. I initially thought I was only going to be able to get Red for this interview, but there was a specific reason that I managed to get Gavin and Katie on board, which we'll come back to in a little bit. In the meantime, I hear there is a 4th member of the band. Who is the 4th member and what is their role?
Her name's Colleen DeLelio, and she plays cello and sings.
And the 4 of you, Red and the Paper Flowers, are coming to the Gold Hill General Store very soon.
Yeah, we're super stoked about it.
I assume that even though you're not a Colorado band, you have come to Colorado to perform before.
Yeah, we've been out there, I think, maybe 3 times, 4 times, 3 times?
3. Yeah.
3. Yeah, we've been out 3 times. We played at the Soiled Dove, City Star Brewing and Berthoud, Lion's Lair,
The Lyric in Fort Collins.
The Lyric in Fort
One of our
Collins.
favorites.
Yeah, definitely. And where else did we play? I thought there was some more. I don't remember the rest of them, but we played.
Those are the big ones.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, it sounds like this is your first time coming to a venue in the Peak to Peak area.
Yeah, we're stoked. We heard it's beautiful. Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, how did Red and the Paper Flowers begin as a group? How did you all meet and start performing?
Well, I was just like an open micer, singer-songwriter type, and I was a high school English teacher for about 10 years, and I stopped going to the open mics until COVID happened because we were forced to have some downtime. And we all played in our own bands and our own projects. And I met Katie and Colleen at an open mic. And then I met Gavin through a mutual friend who I originally played in a band with, and we just had some creative differences. And so we met basically through open mics, and then I quit teaching to pursue music full time in 2021 after I did American Idol. My students submitted some video and I placed top 40, and I was like, okay, well maybe I can do this. And so that's my side of the story. Where were you all? What were you doing? How did you decide?
Like you said, we met through a guy named Will Ross, who I played in a different band with, and he introduced us, and then I've just been along for the ride ever since.
Yeah, and I can kind of speak for Colleen as well. We moved to Tennessee during the COVID pandemic. It was originally her idea to move to Tennessee to be closer to Nashville for singer-songwriter stuff, and then because she's got her own project too called Stranger May, but it was ultimately my decision to move to Knoxville because I found a graduate assistantship here at the University of Tennessee. We basically agreed that Knoxville was close enough to Nashville and realized that this was a really good spot for us. And then, like Red mentioned earlier, we met her at an open mic where we all brought our various instruments, and she actually invited us to play up on stage with her. So very kind, very cool, and yeah.
I just wanted to talk about these other music projects really quickly. Katie brought up that Colleen has her own project, Stranger May, in which she releases her own original songs. And you can check out those songs under that name wherever you get your music. But even before Red formed Red and the Paper Flowers, she ended up releasing music under that nickname, Red. From 2020 to 2021, she released a series of 8 singles that she ultimately compiled together into a physical album, Monsters and Mothers. I want to shout out a woman by the name of Savannah Bressler, who I ended up finding because she did the artwork for the physical release, which was apparently inspired by Where the Wild Things Are. All of the songs from that particular era of Red's musicianship are available online, but they are separate singles. For reference, the singles are K-Town, Joy, Heavyweight, Middle Class Villain, Sun and Moon, Brenda Ann, Being Good Without You, and Home. Red has also since released the singles Return to Worms and Pearl Street for her most recent EP, Dead Little Thing. But okay, I want to tie this back into the rest of the band. Red, Gavin, and Katie. What were all of your musical inspirations? How did you guys start getting into music?
For me, I grew up listening to Norah Jones a lot. I actually was really interested in jazz at first, and I realized I'm not really good at that. So, I don't know. I think my big inspiration when I really first had a recognition that I enjoyed music, it was Norah Jones. But I also grew up a lot on 60s and 70s folk rock, and in turn, I love Janis Joplin a lot. So she was a big inspiration. But my favorite kind of music, I guess, is along the bluegrass route. Just as I've grown as a person and as an artist myself. I love Doc Watson. I guess the Punch Brothers probably up there. So those are some of my inspirations. And just, I think the main thing I bring to the band is the songwriting aspect. It's really funny because with Katie, Colleen, and Gavin, they understand the workings of my instrument better than I do. So it's funny at band practices sometimes I'll be like, well, how do I do this G minor thing? Or where does that go? And they're like, it's this. But yeah, I think that's kind of where I started from. What about y'all?
I grew up playing bluegrass. Started playing on bass actually, and then moved to mandolin and guitar later. So I grew up playing bluegrass, and then got super into Dave Matthews Band when I was 15, Avett Brothers, all that good stuff. I really like Radiohead now. Also really love D'Angelo and rap music and R&B. So I don't know, kind of weird.
All over the place.
What you, Katie?
Yeah, I got my start musically in the classical realm. I started taking piano lessons when I was 7 years old, and then switched over to the upright bass. It came to a point where financially we could only afford one, and I had 2 choices out of instruments that were both bigger than me, so I was kind of behind the 8 ball either way. But I ultimately stuck with bass longer, and I ended up going to music school for that. I wanted to be an orchestra teacher for a long time. I was really moved by melody orchestra teachers who I had growing up and motivated me. Despite being a smaller person, they were like, no, you deserve a spot in the bass section, and that was really inspiring to me. So I wanted to do that for students as well. And that's actually where Colleen and I met. We went to Ithaca College to do our undergrad, and part of the reason why we moved to Tennessee so I could get a master's degree in music education. But altogether, it started for me from a combination of introduction to classical music and then wanting to inspire students the same way that my teachers inspired me. Y'all didn't know that?
No.
Better answer than mine.
Yeah. That's so funny. Katie brought up her size and her height. So the three females in the band, we're all the same height. We're 5'2", and all about the same size. And Gavin, you're what, like 6 foot?
Yeah.
6'8".
6'8".
No.
It's just really funny.
5'11".
Yeah.
And then I can speak on Colleen's upbringing as well. Both of her parents are music teachers. Her dad is a band director, and her mom teaches elementary school music. So music was always a big part of her life, even from the get-go. She also started taking piano lessons and then scooted over to cello. But her main focus was more songwriting and picking up the guitar and a wide spread of instruments rather than just hyper-focusing on one like I chose to do. So she's definitely got a broader range of talent that I think supplements the band well as far as songwriting and the creative direction that everything goes in.
We'll come back to talking more about specific artists that you three have loved over the years a little bit later on. But for now, I'm curious. How long have you guys been cemented as Red and the Paper Flowers?
About 2 years.
Mm-hmm. I think we came up on our 2 years, so yeah, they are my best friends. It's honestly amazing. Whenever we go out on tour, we bought an RV, and she's like 20 feet long. Her name's Gersa because our band car is named Bertha, so we call her Gertie for short. But Colleen cooks and meal preps for us, and Katie books all of our KOA trips, and yeah, it's amazing. We haven't gotten tired of each other yet.
So who's the primary songwriter of the band? Is it you, Red? Is it more collaborative between the four of you? What's the songwriting process?
We started out with me being the primary, but we are working on being more collaborative. That's the direction I personally want us to go in. I want everybody to have 25% a hand in as many things as they possibly can. Katie is really, really good at composition and just providing a framework to write within with her bass lines and even but right now I'm the primary writer, but Colleen is a fantastic writer and in her own project. Of course she writes for that project, but we're trying to be more collaborative, all four of us, in writing and composing. Mm-hmm.
Are there any particular styles of music that you found yourself focusing on over the years?
I would say we're an Appalachian Gothic band where we have influences of folk music and bluegrass, sprinkled with jazz. It's hard to put us in one category because we all pull inspiration from all of that. What would you all say? Like Appalachian Gothic or
Bluegrass, chamber folk.
Yeah, bluegrass chamber folk. Yeah.
Americana.
I don't know if we'd be American. We'd be a string band, acoustic. I don't know. Every time I listen to Americana playlists, they always have drums and an electric guitar. And I'm like, I don't know for that. I don't know. It's such a hard question to ask. I bet you could tell us better when you hear it.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
Do you guys incorporate covers into your shows, or do you primarily focus on originals?
We started out with a lot of covers, and we've since moved more towards originals, but we do include covers in our set, yeah. And most of our covers are blues songs, like Hit the Road Jack, Stand By Me, Benny King, Ray Charles.
System of a Down.
We do have some metal songs. And then, like, Ain't No Sunshine. A lot of those songs are more 60s, 70s tunes with some metal, honestly. Katie's the metalhead.
That's my fault.
Yeah, she can scream, too. It's pretty cool. We're not that kind of band. Sorry. Not yet.
Lean into the Gothic side.
Yeah, we're going into the...
And what has stuck out to you about the writing process, Red? And for you, Gavin and Katie, what's it been like seeing that writing process come to fruition?
For me, the writing process has been more of coming to terms with sadness. I think a lot of our songs are sad. They don't sound sad all the time, but I think it's a way for me to process grief. And I don't know, it's just me process. I write because I need space to process. What do you all think about songs, I guess? Because Colleen's collaborated and written, and you all have added, and you're writing, Katie, and so...
Yeah, I mean, for me, the writing process was very different. It's a lot of just trial and error. Hey, this sounds cool. Hey, this is physically impossible on my instrument. How can I work around that? And so for me, it's been a really cool way to explore composition. When I was brought up to believe that I didn't like that. That's something about classical music school, is that everything is for grade and everything is judged on some level. And for me, that just steered me away from wanting to create in that way. But being with a band and with such open-minded buddies has allowed me to make mistakes, but also just put everything out there. And they've been really helpful in receiving that and working with me to make the best possible art from that.
How about you, Robert?
Yes, said it perfectly.
Yeah, Gavin's a big talker in the group.
And what are some of your favorite parts about being able to perform live in front of an audience? What sticks out to you the most about live performance?
Yeah, go ahead.
You go.
It's kind of surreal to make something and then watch people enjoy it.
It is,
Yeah, I don't think it will ever get old, honestly.
Yeah, I get really emotional when I think about it. I text them every day, I miss you all, but we literally work together, and I see them every day, and then I see them multiple times a day, and I'm like, it's been too long, I miss you.
2 hours.
It's been 2 hours. No, I think Gavin coined it best. It is very surreal. I love what we do. I love providing a space where we might be able to give listeners an experience that they can relate to. And I think, personally, a lot of that, just my master's degree is in English and secondary education, and so I pull a lot of what I learned in poetry and stuff into that. And I don't know, it's just, I love these guys so much. Every time we get on stage, it's just surreal. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And is there anything that you hope audience members will be able to take away from your shows when they come and see you?
For me, I hope that audience members see and pick up on the energy that we bring to them and to each other. I think we all hold each other as bandmates to a certain expectation to, at the end of the day, deliver a service to the hungry audience members. So I think that they hope that we see that everything we do is for them.
Yeah, I want people to feel loved.
Yeah, I love telling people on stage that I'm really sweaty and that they better expect a hug later. But no, I like that aspect, just wanting people to walk away feeling loved and cared about.
And seen.
And seen, yeah. And also, like, the biggest compliment I feel like we get at shows is like, wow, your energy was just, y'all were having fun up there. And we're like, yeah, we were. Yeah, we were. It was awesome.
Well, now it's time to get into how I ended up getting all three of you together on the same phone call. I was trying to contact Red for a bit. Little did I realize how busy she probably was. I ended up finding another place of contact for her at a store called Rush's Music. And I ended up discovering over the course of this call that she currently owns that particular business. I said in the original interview that I thought she founded the business, but that is absolutely not true, and we'll get more into that later. But I didn't realize until I actually got a hold of Red on the phone that Katie and Gavin were also there, because they were also working at Rush's Music. So I am very curious. How did all of this come to be? How did you come to be the owner of Rush's Music? And how did Gavin and Katie end up coming on board to join the staff? Before we get into that segment, though, what I didn't realize is that we were about to delve into some pretty heavy themes and stories, particularly involving grief. I am very flattered that Red felt comfortable to share this story on the podcast. However, it does deal with very sensitive topics involving grief. I just wanted to warn everybody before Red started talking.
So February of 2023, my best friend was murdered in his home, and I worked at Rush's Music when I was a young whippersnapper, right out of high school through college. I worked at the front, and then I repaired fretted instruments and orchestral instruments in the back. And Jason Cooper, the former owner, did not have family, so he willed me his dog, stores, and his house. His dog passed in April, and that was like reliving all of the bullshit all over again. And it was awful, but I think I've come to love being back here again, and I think my grief and processing ability is getting a little easier. And when it happened, we had a band practice like the day after, and I just broke down at Katie and Colleen's old apartment, and I said, I don't know how to run a business. We need people to join because there's not enough staff. And Katie and Gavin quit their jobs basically and came to work at Rush's to help me.
I didn't want to dwell on the specifics of the story, but I just wanted to add a little bit of additional information after the fact. On February 22nd, 2023, Jason Cooper was killed. 3 months later, on May 24th, his roommate turned herself in for the crime and was ultimately indicted by a Knox County grand jury on charges including voluntary manslaughter, employing a firearm during the commission of a felony, and ultimately second-degree murder. But again, that's not the aspect of this story that I particularly wanted to focus on. The story that I really want to focus on here is Red for taking on the business and Gavin and Katie for being so willing to hop on board to help out their friend and a local business that has been around for almost 70 years. In fact, if you'll indulge me a little bit, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the history of Rush's music that Red has already touched on a little bit. I know, it's not local peak-to-peak history, but it connects with our subjects, and I think it's a really cool story. Of course, Rush's music is named after Bob Rush, the founder of the original music store. In 1955, he came to Knoxville to work at the music store Cherokee Music. Its main office was located in Louisville, Kentucky, but he ended up coming to Knoxville to work at that particular office. After 3 years of working there, Bob felt he could run that business better. So he founded his own, creating Rush's Music in 1958. Of course, many people have since come and gone from that particular business over the years, but I did want to make sure I covered the 5 owners that have been involved with Rush's Music from the beginning to now. Of course, the first one was Bob. He ended up passing away in November of 1977 at the age of 50 due to lung cancer, and his legacy was ultimately left to his wife, Willene. Willene actually incorporated Rush's in 1979, and it's still a corporation to this day. She continued the business strong, but ultimately it was purchased from her by Steve Boyce, who then became the 3rd owner of Rush's Music after helping her manage the store for a long time. He himself is active in the Knoxville music scene, so it was a fit for him to be able to run this particular music store. His wife, Dr. Patsy Colleen Williams Boyce, was a professor at Carson Newman College. Unfortunately, she passed away at 44 years old in South Knoxville on Friday, July 7th, 2023, after fighting metastatic pancreatic cancer for 11 months. Her legacy is continued on by Steve, of course, his daughter, Jennifer, his son-in-law, Bradley, and their 3 children, Lindley, Stephen, and Eleanor. Steve ultimately served as the owner for 23 years, having initially purchased it in June 1998. And Jason Cooper would ultimately continue a long-running tradition. Willene had studied under Bob, who of course founded the store in the first place. Steve studied under Willene, and Jason had studied under Steve. Jason had actually been working in Rush's Music since 2002, starting as a sales associate and road representative. He continued being involved with the store for the next 2 decades of his life, ultimately meeting Red when she began working at Rush's in 2011, also under Steve's leadership, as a sales representative and string repair technician. As she mentioned earlier, she ultimately left Rush's to pursue teaching high school English, yearbook, and journalism once she completed her master's program. Jason ultimately took ownership of the store in 2021, willed it to Red after his death in 2023, and Red has kept it going since. And what I think is so cool about this particular story is not only Gavin and Katie being so willing to stand behind their band member and close friend, but also all 3 of these people coming together to preserve such a cool piece of local history, and probably an important piece of local history to members of the Knoxville community. I just think it is a really cool story. So I guess I should talk about Rush's Music from Gavin and Katie's perspective. How has it been for you 2 working at Rush's Music with Red?
It's been great. It's been a lot of pieces for her to pick up and try and put back in place and get everything moving smooth. But for me, it's been nice. I've been working in the back in the repair department with the woodwind technician, so I'm working on a trade right now, and it's been real nice.
Yeah, for me, if nothing else, it's convenient. Being able to see 75% of my band at work and to be able to share a cool environment while also, hey, did you see that email about that gig? I'm so excited about it. Oh yeah, back to work. Yeah. I work, so the main store where you caught all of us, this is quote unquote the South store because it's located in South Knoxville. I'm primarily stationed out at the West Store, which is west of downtown Knoxville. And it's a smaller, more satellite store. We don't get as much foot traffic, but it's been really cool to be able to be a part of this organization and interact with my bandmates in, I guess, a more 9-to-5 way, and then still be able to share that passion for our music outside of that as well, and to be able to allow those worlds to overlap.
It's nice for me because my band boss and my work boss are the same boss.
I know, it's very convenient, like I said.
That's been interesting to navigate too. I think we always in the forefront, I'm always afraid of being disrespectful in some kind of way because honestly, I mean, while that's true, it's also not true at all because we really love and respect and care about each other. And Rush's has been around since 1958, from Bob Rush and then to Steve Boyce and then to Jason and then to myself. And Steve was my boss and Jason, again, we worked together, but it's just everybody has just been so hands-on. And I've also had to relearn how to do everything. So in many cases, Katie has had to retrain me on processes that she already knows about from learning from front-end staff. And the same with Gavin. We work with schools and do band rentals for school programs. And Gavin and Nathan led a professional development for teachers where they also made me sit down so I could learn how to do this. And we learned how to repair flutes and clarinets and some things like that. So I'm very, very lucky to be able to share space with Gavin and Katie as often as I do. And we miss Colleen as well. So,
I just wanted to make sure I mentioned the exact positions of these three. Of course, Red is the owner of both the South and West Store. Gavin is listed as an apprentice woodwind repair technician, and Katie is listed as the West Store sales associate. By the way, in case you're curious about exact locations, the West Store is located in Cedar Bluff, Knoxville, and the South Store is located on Chapman Highway. I also did just want to mention here, I think it's cool that the band has already cemented a dynamic between the four of these guys, despite the fact that they've only been a full band for 2 or 3 years. For example, if you go to redandthepaperflowers.com, which is their official website, you can read all of the band members' bios. And Gavin's bio mentions that he hates being in the spotlight, so most of the band footage is Gavin behind the camera. He ends up being the filmographer for a lot of the events and rehearsals that Red and the Paper Flowers end up performing. It is also mentioned multiple times in these bios that some of the band members are sillier than others, especially when it comes to how they get along with each other. According to Colleen's biography, Colleen and Red pride themselves on keeping band practice on track when the dad jokes ensue between Katie and Gavin. I think that second part of the statement is perfectly represented in a really funny moment that I'll talk about near the end of this episode. I just think it's great that in a seemingly short amount of time, these four members have gelled together so quickly, both musically and personally, and have already stuck together in incredibly tough times. I mentioned earlier that I would get more into talking about specific artists that you guys have been inspired by over the years, and it is now that time. RushesMusic.com also lists the entire staff of Rush's Music, gives them short sentences describing their character, and also lists cool character traits about themselves. Those traits are the main instrument of the staff member, their favorite band or style of music, and their favorite hobby. I ended up focusing specifically on the favorite band and style of music of these three staff members, Red, Gavin, and Katie. For Red, she listed her favorite band as Doc Watson and her favorite style of music as bluegrass. For Gavin, he listed his favorite band as the Punch Brothers. And Katie mentioned a band that I had never heard of before. In fact, the name looked odd enough to me that I initially pronounced it Jinger. That's not how it's pronounced. It is pronounced Ginger, spelled with 2 J's instead of 2 G's. So I want to talk about all these groups a little more. Red, Gavin, Katie, what are your thoughts on how these artists have inspired you over the years? Why do you consider them your favorite artists?
For the Punch Brothers, growing up playing bluegrass, the musicality that they all have is something that I've always strived towards. I don't like the most perfect I can imagine music being. but also the songwriting is interesting. I'm not much of a lyrics person. I usually listen sonically first, but I do enjoy all their lyrics as well.
So I picked my favorite band is Ginger. If you're not familiar with them, they're a Ukrainian new metal band, and I have been really driven by their energy that they bring on stage. I saw them in Nashville a couple of years ago, and that's by far one of my favorite concert shows experiences that I've ever had. Just the energy that they bring to the stage, the amount of professionalism that they have, even in being in a sort of more grungy and intense setting, and just the level of musicality that each member brings to the band is really impressive to watch them do so consistently, from listening to their albums to doing live acoustic shows to doing really anything that they do. It's all very impressive to me.
And then Doc Watson for myself. I really oscillated a lot between Doc Watson and the Punch Brothers. From the Punch Brothers, I like Chris Steele's lyricism. I don't listen sonically necessarily first. I listen for lyrics first. But it's the same with Doc Watson. My favorite Doc Watson song is Georgie, and I love the makeup of the song, even though it's repetitive throughout. I love the storytelling behind it, and so, yeah, that's why.
Now, there was something about Red's music career before she formed Red and the Paper Flowers that I wanted to come back to. I felt like it was a really cool story to talk about. You ended up being involved in season 19, the 2021 season of American Idol, where you ended up making it into the top 40. What can you tell us about your experience auditioning for American Idol?
Yeah, well, I didn't know it was happening because my students did it on my behalf. And again, when COVID hit, I had downtime, and so I picked up my passion again, and I started writing and playing music again and going to open mics and going to, doing whatever I could as soon as things kind of started to open up. But I took this music marketing class by this guy named Adam Ivy. I actually ended up working for him a little bit and building up his curriculum and working with some of his students, and it was really humbling and amazing. But so I started just growing my Instagram, and my students saw my Instagram, and they were like, wow, you play music. We're going to send one of these videos off. And my principal called me downstairs. I taught at Ellen in STEM Academy. It was an old train station building in downtown Knoxville, and I taught English there. And my principal called me down to the office, and he was just like, I have some really concerning information. And I said, what? And he tricked me. It was the producers of the show. And they were like, hey, we want to fly you out. And they did. And so first stop was San Diego, and that's where I got the little golden ticket. I played an original song called Joy for that one, and then Stand By Me by Benny King. And I will never do it again. It was tiring and exhaustive. My guitar got damaged on the plane ride, so that was fun. And then I made it through the genre round where I chose to play Hit the Road Jack by Ray Charles. And then I got cut at the duet section with Chase Beckham, and he went on to win it. So I feel like I'm very thankful for the experience, and I'm thankful that I got cut where I got cut. I can't exactly sure why, because I had to sign an NDA. We all did. But once you make it past a certain amount, they want to make sure that you're following all their rules and things, and I don't like to follow rules. So yeah, it was good that it happened the way it happened, and I liked owning our own music. So yeah, it was really tiring, but it was a good challenge, and I got to meet a lot of cool people. Yeah.
As far as I can tell, her performances have not been released anywhere. However, if you're curious to hear her original song, Joy, you can stream it wherever you get your music. And I guess I'd been holding back on this question for a while, but I'm going to ask it now. Gavin, you mentioned that you were involved in at least one other band before this particular project. Katie, were you involved in any other bands?
Well, I can actually speak on Colleen, because we actually played in our first band together. It goes way back to college days. We were called Quality Code Names. We played a bunch of covers, but we would alter the names of those covers so that they were like kind of paralleled, but not quite the same, hence the code name. For example, the song Misery Business by Paramore turned into Sad Company. Song Slide by the Goo Goo Dolls became known as Flip, and just silly stuff like that. But that was how we became friends initially, and since then we've played in a handful of bands kind of together. Her project Stranger May, I play bass for her whenever we go out and do our own gigs, and yeah, so we ended up going to that fateful open mic where we met Red at together as a duo, but yeah.
Red, I know you mentioned that you performed with Will, and we'll talk more about that in just a second, but were you involved in any other groups before Red and the Paper Flowers?
No, I mean, yes, but none fun to note. It was more short-lived ideas and projects, and it was important for my growth, I think, as a musician, but it's always been the Paper Flowers project, I think. And Gavin still plays in some other bands. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I played in a couple of bluegrass bands.
Yeah, like Big Country's Empty Bottle and...
I play brunch every Sunday in Townsend with two gentlemen. There's really not a name for the group.
Yeah.
By the way, I ended up finding that Red, Gavin, and Will Ross were actually the original lineup of a trio called Red the Band. Once Will and Red stopped performing together, she and Gavin went on with Colleen and Katie to form what is now Red and the Paper Flowers. If you're still curious about that original trio, Red the Band's Facebook page is still up, so you can check out that trio. Just as a clarification, Gavin, was the band that you mentioned near the beginning of this interview and the band that you mentioned you still perform with every now and again the same group?
That was Big Bottle. Yeah, that was the one I was playing with, where I played with Red's old bass player.
And Gavin and I have played together for 3 years now.
3 years.
3 years. And we started out Red and the Paper Flowers, and then we got Katie and Colleen in, and it was just called Red, and I hated it because I'm like, it's not just me, and everybody is contributing, and so I still want to drop the Red part and just be a band name, but I don't think that'll happen maybe anytime soon.
Okay, well, this has been a bit of a longer interview than usual, but I just had a lot that I wanted to ask you guys. But as we wrap things up, is there anything that you want to promote in the near future, particularly any releases coming up?
We're releasing, I think it's our favorite song off of the record. We're just dropping songs as singles just to build hype around the project, but we're releasing a song called Ions. It's spelled IJAMS, IJAMS, and it's about a nature center in Knoxville that's a park, and it's got a lot of walking trails, running trails, mountain biking trails, and it's a sad song, but I'm so proud of the work we put in the studio and our producers. It's my favorite one that we have. It's releasing August 5th, and we're going to have a song a month basically dropping and releasing. So Ions will be out by the time we're in Colorado. Yeah.
As I mentioned, I recorded this on July 24th. Can you tell us at this particular point in time, which is now the past, if there are any other songs that you know will be released at a certain time?
No, we're kind of picking them based on feel. We're sitting down as a group and listening through them and feeling out which one. For example, like what song feels like September, that's the one we're going to release next.
Yeah, we have a song called Snowy Day that is not appropriate to release yet.
Right.
So.
And we released Heavyweight, which that was an original tune I wrote a really long time ago that we just put out as a group because it felt like summer. So we're just making those decisions based on what we feel. But Ions will be released, and then we'll have basically 2 more songs out on top of Ions before we get out to y'all.
And do you have a release date for the album?
Not yet. Hopefully it'll be towards the tail end of the year, if not in the spring. Are we good on the name? We're going to call it Appalachian Bell Jar because each song is a microcosm of something bigger.
Okay, I think those are the big questions. As we started wrapping up and I started talking to Red about logistics for this particular interview in both column and podcast form, I did double check with her to make sure that mentioning Jason's story was okay on the podcast. And she said that that was totally fine, and this is what she had to add to that.
It's something that I don't want this to sound terrible, but I'm becoming a little bit more numb and able to talk about it, I guess, just time's passed. We don't have his trial until March, though. It keeps getting pushed back. So
after the primary interview, I ended up asking Red if it was okay for me to do something in the final episode of the podcast. And she absolutely gave me permission to say this. I wanted to dedicate this episode in the memory of Jason Cooper. I also wanted to dedicate it to the memory of Bob Rush, of course, Dr. Patsy Colleen Williams-Boyce, and Willene Rush, who, in a tragic coincidence, ended up passing away on April 22nd, 2024, the same month that Jason Cooper's dog passed away. 2 ties to Rush's music passing away in the same month. And this podcast episode is dedicated to those 4 people who helped make Rush's what it is today. But as I start wrapping up, I wanted to mention a humorous moment that occurred as we were talking about logistics. There had already been a bunch of background noise. You heard phones ringing and possibly some rustling in the background from the business at Rush's Music, but in this particular moment, Gavin and Katie were sword fighting with objects around the store. And it was right after Red apologized for this particular background noise that I heard a very loud clang in the phone. I found that moment absolutely amazing. I'm describing that moment and not playing it in this particular episode of the podcast because, in my opinion, it doesn't play quite as well unless you listen through the entire interview and then end up realizing when Gavin and Katie end up going into the background and start distracting themselves. I think that realization that they're behind the scenes now sword fighting with each other is really funny to me. And again, it's just a testament to the dynamic that these four have ended up forming over the last couple of years. That they know each other's idiosyncrasies, and the band members have connected in different ways with each other and have different modes depending on what's going on, if it's practice or rehearsal or a performance or just friends hanging out or working together. I think it's a really great dynamic, and I'm sorry if Gavin and Katie end up killing me for including that particular moment in this episode, but I think it's a true testament to how close-knit this group is as friends, if not just musicians. And if you have the chance, you can actually see that dynamic live on the stage. Red and the Paper Flowers are coming to the Gold Hill General Store located at 531 Main Street in Gold Hill on Thursday, October 24th, 2024, starting at 6:45 p.m. For more information about the group as a whole, be sure to head to their website at redandthepaperflowers.com. You can also find each member's individual social media there and find the band on Facebook and YouTube as Red and the Paper Flowers and on Instagram at red.music. You can stream Red's solo music as Red, wherever you get your music, and Colleen's music as Stranger May, wherever you get your music. In fact, if you want to learn more about Stranger May as a solo project, then you can head to her website at strangermay.com, where you can find all of her other social media. And finally, to learn more about Rush's music, be sure to head to their website at rushesmusic.com. And now, for this week's music mentions. Head to the Gold Hill Inn, located at 401 Main Street in Gold Hill on Friday, October 18th, starting at 8 p.m. to see the Hunter Stone Band performing live, and on Sunday, October 20th, starting at 7 p.m. to see the Lily Talmers Trio performing live. Head to the Gold Hill General Store, located at 531 Main Street in Gold Hill on Saturday, October 19th, starting at 7:30 p.m. to see Last Mile Country Club performing live. This might be a podcast-exclusive announcement. Head to Halloween Brewing, located at 51A Main Street in Rollinsville on Saturday, October 19th, starting at 6 p.m. to see the Ben Sproul Band performing live. Head to the Jamestown Mercantile, located at 108 Main Street in Jamestown on Wednesday, October 16th at 5 p.m. for an open mic night. On Thursday, October 17th, starting at 7 p.m. to see Andy Mann performing live, and on Friday, October 18th, starting at 7 p.m. to see DeVelly Band performing live. Head to Knotted Root Brewing, located at 250 North Caribou Street in Nederland every Friday at 7 p.m. for a DJ night, every second Friday at 7:30 p.m. for a reggae DJ night, and every Sunday at 5 p.m. for Jazz Sundays. Head to the Caribou Room, located at 55 Indian Peaks Drive in Nederland on Saturday, October 19th for Dave Abear's A Very Jerry Band with the Desert Furs performing live. Doors open and dinner starts at 7 p.m. and the show starts at 8 p.m. And finally, I do emphasize that I still hope you pick your preference, but I do have a bias for this particular week of Very Nice Brewing Company shows. If you want to head to Gilpin County, then be sure to head to the location at 180 Jankowski Drive in Blackhawk on Friday, October 18th, starting at 6 p.m. to see Jesse McLean performing live, and on Saturday, October 19th, starting at 5 p.m. to see David Tillman performing live. If you would prefer to head to Nederland, then be sure to head to their location at 20 East Lakeview Drive number 112 in Nederland on Friday, October 18th, starting at 5 p.m. to see Porphyry performing live, and on Saturday, October 19th at 5 p.m. to see De Lovelies performing live. And there's one more very special show that I purposefully saved for last this time around. On Thursday, October 17th, starting at 6 p.m., you can catch a Songwriters Showcase that is being hosted by Cari and Ray Smith of Strange Birds. For the last month, they've been hosting a songwriting workshop at the Nederland Community Library. Those songwriters are now going to showcase the songs that they've been working on at Very Nice Brewing Company. And that group of songwriters includes myself. That's right. If you want to see me debut my own original song at the Very Nice Brewing Company, then be sure to head to that Songwriter Showcase on Thursday, October 17th. That being said, I don't just want to highlight myself here. Everyone in that group has great songs to share, and I really hope that you end up coming out to support everybody who is a part of that workshop. They've all done some great writing, and I cannot wait for you guys to see what they've done. Did we miss you or your performance? Want to submit your music listing in the Peak to Peak area? Do you have updates to your business or to your performances? Please call 303-810-5409 or email info@themountaineer.com to be included in the next print edition or the next podcast of The Mountain Ear. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in to this week's Music of the Mountains, Where to Be and What to See, brought to you by the Mountaineer Podcast. I'm actually getting plans in motion at this point. I have cemented a bunch of interviews that I will be conducting for next week in the podcast realm. So be sure to expect our regular 3 episodes next week. We'll be back on Monday with a local events spotlight. In the meantime, if you want to support this podcast and share it around with whoever you see fit, then be sure to head to the mtnearpodcast.buzzsprout.com or to the mtnear.com/the-mountain-ear-podcast. And if you would like to be featured on the podcast in some way, whether you want to be interviewed, you have something to promote, you want to share a segment with us, or you have advertising that you want us to put on the podcast, then be sure to email me at media@themountaineer.com and we'll get something sorted for you. I'll see you guys on Monday. Have a great rest of your day.
Rain hits hard on the metal roof above me. Blue jays singing their fighting songs of war. I learned much more.
The song that you are currently listening to is not how it first looks. Yes, it is spelled I-Jams, which is how I've been pronouncing it in my head essentially this entire time, but no, it is actually called Iams, and it is based on a nature center that is very close to members of the band Red and the Paper Flowers. It's their latest single, and you can stream this single along with Regrets of Mine and the full band version of Heavyweight wherever you get your music in anticipation for their debut album Appalachian Bell Jar, wherever you get your music. Also be sure to learn more about Red and the Paper Flowers by going to their website at redandthepaperflowers.com. You can follow their Instagram at red.music and their Facebook and YouTube profiles under Red and the Paper Flowers. And finally, they'll be coming to the Gold Hill General Store located at 531 Main Street in Gold Hill on Thursday, October 24th, starting at 6:45 p.m.
Push me off of that ledge, loneliness. Push me off of that ledge.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak to Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.